Hello, welcome to another episode, Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Hill, with my co-host, Shane Peak. How you living, Shane?
Excellent. Been
Good,
doing some investigations and everything is going great.
great. We are currently waiting for our guest, Shanna Maria. She should be here shortly. Um, First off, I wanted to talk to Shane about, he had some investigations going recently, and I kind of wanted to get a little bit of information on where exactly you went on your last investigation.
Oh, yeah, sure. So we went to Oberlin, Ohio,
Okay.
to the Inspiration House. So it's a bed and breakfast, kind of like what you're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually, instead of being maybe a full bed and breakfast, it's more like an Airbnb that is owned by Michelle Ballinger.
Mm-hmm.
She is a psychic author, does other things. She has her own TV shows and stuff, but it's her personal place as like a second home, but she rents it out like an Airbnb for investigators, etc.
Okay.
So we went there and we did 2 nights. One night was just us and my other scientist guys,
Oh,
and
okay.
then on Saturday night we actually had a medium come out and we did a full session with her, and we did sessions with our plasma globe, etc. So she had spirits try to touch it. She tried to influence it. Of course, Brandon and I tried it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And preliminary, I mean, we're talking really preliminary results say that we were able to actually have influence. We have days, if not weeks, worth of math to do to figure out the rest.
Right.
So far, so good. The second
Okay.
place I went, and that was 2 weeks ago. The second place I went was the Van Buren Poorhouse Museum in Van Buren County in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a 1800s poorhouse. It went through multiple owners, etc. Um, over the years, and then they converted it into an actual museum, and it's got like 40 rooms,
Okay.
and each room is a theme from either a different era or a different thing. Like one's an old dentist's office, one's an old schoolroom, classroom. I mean, all kinds of just like a 1920s room, a 1930s room, a 1950s kitchen,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and so every room is now a theme, and it even has its original jail cell where they would put the mental patients,
Okay.
or if there was a traveling sheriff, back in the 1800s, it took several days to cross the county by stagecoach.
Oh, wow.
And if they had a prisoner, they needed somewhere to put them while they slept.
Right.
So they would stop at these different poorhouses, and
Yeah.
almost all of them had a jail in them. So
Right.
that it's just a single room jail. They would put
Right.
the guy in there or whoever it was and hold him overnight so they could get some rest
Oh, wow.
without him escaping. So, anyways, it was a very fun place.
Okay.
Again, just me and friends, but we did multiple sessions with the plasma globe. Plus, of course, the sensor board is always involved in all of these.
Right. Right.
So, again, I got weeks worth of data to go over.
Yeah, you do. All
So,
right. So, yeah. So, I think Shauna is here. Let's add her. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
hello. Nice to meet you.
Hello. I have this really beautiful setup, but there's limited space, so I just have to reconfigure everything.
It's
No,
all
it
good.
looks good. It looks
Oh,
good.
good.
So, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We're great. Thanks for coming on. Um, yeah, it's just been kind of in the last probably, I don't know, few days. It's just been pretty crazy around here and around with the weather and all that. And it's just been, my abilities just been kind of, my radar has been going off like crazy. So yeah, it was a kind of a rough couple days. But why don't you go ahead and tell us, Maria, what you're up to now?
Ooh, what I'm up to now. Well,
Mhm.
let me introduce myself first. So I'm Shanna Maria. For those of you that know me, hey,
Mhm.
hello. For those of you who don't, my name is Shanna Maria. I am a born medium, psychic, intuitive healer and energy worker.
Mhm.
So I have dedicated my life to this work, and I'm in a process of major transition right now and branching out even bigger. So it's
Okay.
exciting.
Mhm.
Excellent.
It's
Yeah.
a lot, but it's exciting.
Right, right.
Mhm.
So, did you say a while ago that you were thinking about working on a book?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. This
That's a
is a
pretty
long
big adventure.
time. This is a long time in the making. And this is something I've been sitting on for, gosh, years. Originally, I started this book idea, gosh, I think like 3-4 years ago now.
Mhm.
And then I put it on the back burner. I realized I had to still go through some transition, learn some things before I was
Mhm.
ready. And now I'm
Right.
at that point where I am ready. So as
Right,
soon
right.
as the school start or the youth school year
Okay. Yeah, right.
hopefully starts, right, and everyone
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
back to school, I am
Yeah.
going to be really in hibernation mode and starting to really form this book together. I have a lot of it written right now, so it's really a lot of typing and just adding in,
Sure.
some more stuff. So
Right,
it's
right.
exciting.
Very
It's
nice.
exciting. So hopefully it will be a process, but I'm hoping within by next year, 2022, the book will be
Right.
released. So I do have a
Right.
publisher, and so I'm doing this. So it's really exciting.
Right. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Congrats. That's so cool.
Thank you.
For some of those that know and some that are watching, Shanna Maria has been working with me and my abilities in the last few months, and I just wanted to give a shout out to you for thank you for working with me, and I just want to say that you're awesome in that sense. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just she's just been she teaches people, and she's a very good teacher, and I just I'm very humbled in the fact that to have you on our show, it's just a really it's very it's very awesome, let's put it that way. But I wanted to actually having said that, I wanted to ask you and let our viewers know that you actually have been experiencing this pretty much your whole life, right?
Yes. Yeah. I was born this way. I was born different from a very young age. My first memories, looking back on things, was probably about 5 years old. But my mother and other family members, say it was probably they started noticing things around 3 years old for me. So really, this is all I've ever known. It's a way of life for me. And it didn't come easy at first. It took me many years to be able to really understand, for one, I'm not crazy. There really is
Right.
something going on here. And
Hmm.
so, when I teach from experience. And I really try to explain things along the way, because there's so much to learn along the way,
Hmm.
and so much to understand about yourself and how
Right.
the way that you work, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it goes past that. People even without gifts, I mean,
Yeah.
or that
Give it
just
A.
right there, Shane,
Yep.
who thinks he has gifts of a rock,
Pretty much.
But I think that everybody is able to tap into that, and I know that we have talked about that before, Shauna. That I think that people can tap into that. It's just not. There's just isn't certain people. You know what I mean? I think it's everybody.
I do too.
So.
I really do believe that all of us are born with these abilities at a certain extent.
Mhm.
When we're younger, and younger child, we're more open
Mhm.
to this stuff, because our gifts haven't been squashed out of us yet. Now,
Mhm.
as we get older and we go through life, go through school, these abilities get squashed out. But I truly do believe that we're all born with these abilities to a certain extent. For me, I
Right.
was born like wide open, I swear.
Right. Right.
Um, but I always say, if you are an intuitive type of person,
Mhm.
or even an empathic type of person, you most likely have other spiritual gifts and
Mhm.
abilities that you may not understand
Right.
or know
Right.
about. Mhm.
Right. When would you say was it where you really said, "Okay, I got to sit down. I got to do this. I can't keep, you know, shoving this aside."
Oh, I could go on for hours about this, but let's start here. I've had two near-death experiences in my life,
Oh wow.
and yeah, and I say came back bearing gifts. It wasn't for my second near-death accident that happened in 2010. Okay. I was
Mhm.
born this way. I was born with gifts and abilities. And at some point, I can share some stories too, because I love sharing the stories to help relate. But that second near death experience really opened me up in ways that I could not explain. I spent half my life bearing or having this as a secret. I did not really tell because I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand. I knew that I was different, but I didn't understand what that I had these gifts.
Mhm.
So I kind of walking around blinded in this world till I figured it out. And it wasn't till that second near death experience that I said I came back bearing gifts. All these things that I experienced throughout my life, I shut down. I tried to ignore that they weren't there. Well, Spirit had other ideas, and Spirit came in and said, "Nope," and reined me back in. And
Right.
2010 happened, near-death experience. I ended up having we don't even know, but a rare medical emergency, and I was rushed into surgery. And on the operating table is where I died for about a minute and a half. And I remember that experience so clearly. I walked with God. I had this, walk with God moment.
Mhm.
I love sharing or listening to other people's stories when it comes to near-death experience.
Right,
That's
right,
what I
right.
tell you.
Yeah.
If you were gifted before, let me tell you, you haven't seen nothing yet.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't realize right away what was happening. After, within that year, after my experience there, I was actually going through having to make a decision of going through a divorce. So I was in a transition of like major life changes. And
Mhm.
before my accident, I was asking God for a sign. I was asking God for, I need help here. I need something. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, I had this medical emergency and I was in the hospital and my life changed forever. After I came out, I ended up going through a divorce and really changing that course. But going back to when I was walking with God, like I said, I remember it so clearly. There's a point where I'm walking with him, and all of a sudden we're in a field, just a field with wildflowers. And God was standing in the middle of this field. And there was a fork in the road, like a dirt road and a fork. God said to me, you can either go left to the life that you know, or you can take a right to the unknown. And then I remember being back in my body and in so much pain on that table. But I will never forget those words. That has always stayed with me. At the time, I did not understand his words or what that meant. But he said to me, you still have work left to be done.
Mhm.
Again, I had no idea what that meant. It's like my journey for me has been like putting a big puzzle together. Slowly, all these pieces are coming together and making sense. So with that transition, I actually I call her my earth angel. Her name is Vaughn. She is a local mentor to me, and she's a psychic medium herself. And you talk about people coming into your life at the right time when you need them the most. Well,
Mhm.
she's one of those people. I was actually with a friend of mine that was part of Minneapolis Paranormal Society. And she kept begging me to come to a paranormal event. And I kept saying, no, I'm not interested. I want nothing to do with this.
Mhm.
Right? Me still in denial, mind you. So anyway, she tricked me, and I ended up in a place called St. Anthony, Maine, which is downtown Minneapolis area. It's
Mhm.
beautiful, very active area. There's
Mhm.
actually ghost tours that are actually down there. So anyway, so we were down there one night, and my soon-to-be mentor came up to me, and she said, "Honey, did you bring your guy home with you last night?" And there's a whole funny story behind that, but she was talking about a ghost, actually. And back up, a couple days before I met my mentor, a couple days ago, like my friend and I went down there, and I actually had an experience where I saw a ghost, and he ended up following me home that night.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
yeah, and I actually saw him, I mean, clear as day, like a man standing next to my bed. It was like this whole thing.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I went back down, so I told my friend that, and she's like, we have to go back down there. You have to bring him back. And I'm like, what are you
Mhm.
talking about?
Yeah.
So went to bring him back. And to my surprise, that's the night that I actually met my mentor. I wasn't convinced that night, but she had handed me a card and she said, when you are ready, call me.
Right.
So got home. I put that business card, I'll be honest, I put that business card over here, didn't even look at it. The voice in my head kept saying, pick up that card and call her. That voice kept getting louder and louder, more persistent. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I ended up picking up the phone and calling her. And that was life-changing for me. She's one of the reasons I have really dedicated, this part of my life to doing this work. She not only, brought me into her home where she actually taught her classes. She didn't only just sit me down in a classroom. She brought me on location. She brought me to do investigations with her. And through that, I was connected with Minneapolis Paranormal Society, and I started doing investigations, being able to have the opportunity to go do some paranormal investigations with them. Mm-hmm. So for me, that is when, like, going through that process, because it was a process. I mean, she'll tell you, I came, and then I left for a bit, and then I came back, and then I left, and I came back, because I had to come to this self-acceptance, not being afraid of it. And the self-acceptance part is huge. I already felt like throughout my whole life, I already felt different and like I never belonged. And this, to me, at that time, was just another thing that I just was like, no, I just want to feel like everyone else. But come to find out, I embraced my weird. I embraced my gifted soul side. And it's been a long journey, but well worth it. So I would say within, 2011 around there, I had an idea, like Spirit was leading me to do this work. I didn't know what it looked like exactly, but I knew I had to do something with it. And the more that I went through it, I realized there was so much more to this than just giving readings for myself. There was so much more to this than what we were permitted to believe. Right. I mean, we are able to be our own healers in so many ways. We're able to do, there's so much that we have the power of our own mind. And when we're able to really embrace this side of us, it's life-changing. For me, it's been life-changing. And why I teach, and I've been teaching for roughly about 5 years now. In person and online. And I tell you, it's been amazing, because as I'm teaching, I'm also receiving. It's beautiful energy exchange. I've learned so much, but really it's like this roadmap, of what people really need. How do we get started? Like, to have someone that can show us on this path is everything. We only do so much on our own, and then we need help. And that's where, she was my first teacher, and I've had many other teachers along the way. But but the short version.
I got some question.
Yeah.
So say if you're not a spirit medium, and everybody said, all of the mediums I've ever talked to, they always say everybody has some abilities. What are the tips to start, and how do you find out what they are? Can you give me a little bit about how would a lay person that just isn't naturally born with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
So first off, I'll start with saying mediums are more rare. Mediums are definitely more rare. Psychics are more common. Okay. For mediums, we're more rare. So
can you give us a difference of those two, just for the people between the medium and the psychic?
Yeah, so psychic is pretty much like intuition. It's a knowing without knowing. I'm able to tap into, psychic is more of a knowing without knowing. A medium is someone that connects to the other side, has that connection to, your loved ones, or to to the other side, is how I like to put it.
Occasionally, I'll get some idea. I'll be like, yeah, my gut will say, yeah, it's good, this is going to happen, and it does. But the coincidences, who knows? But so now,
that part is your intuition. Intuition, what I've learned over the years, is really connected to our psychic ability. Yep. Right. So psychic is connecting to that knowing, that intuition. Medium is connecting to the other side.
Sure. Okay. So how do you get started now that we know the difference?
Oh, how we get started? Good question. So how we get started is you got to quiet your mind first. We have all this loud chatter going on in our minds all the time. And if you're in a stressed body, I will say, if you're in a stressed mind and a stressed body, you're going to be blocking your gifts. So in order for us, a good place to start for beginners, a good place to start with this is meditation, through meditation. We got to be able to, find a quiet space, quiet mind, because when you're able to quiet your mind and, shut out the background noise, you're able to tune into your own soul.
Yeah, because my mind never shuts up. Because
Never.
And there's different types of meditation too. I mean, there's so many different types of meditation. You kind of got to find one that fits who you are.
And try many different things. You don't have to meditate for hours on end. That's another thing. I don't sit here and meditate for hours on end. I really don't. I just take the time, especially before I do any work. Say I'm about to do a reading. I'll sit down an hour before and I'll start, getting ready. But I will take at least about, say 10 minutes, depending, about 10, 15 minutes before, just to kind of put myself in that mind frame.
Sure. Okay.
It's focused. It's focused energy.
All right. So you've done your meditation. You've quieted the world.
And now you sit down and you listen. You ask the question. Be very specific and straight point. Keep your questions simple. Like simple questions are the best. But sit down with a piece of paper. This always helps with what I do is I will sit down and I will write out a question, or I'll think of a question and then ask spirit. You don't always have to say it out loud. If you're alone, you can say it out loud, but you can also ask the question in your head. If you ask it in your head, they can still hear you. So ask a specific question that you have. And then I want you to sit back and I just want you to, within a quiet space, just wait for that answer. A lot of times, at first, it's kind of tricky. You got to listen. Is it your soul? I always say your intuitive voice sounds very similar to your own voice. Okay. Understood. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's your soul. That's your inner guidance.
I did it all quiet, but then my mind doesn't like to be quiet for more than a few seconds. So then it would just be my mind would start right back up again.
Yep. And that's the practice. Yeah.
It takes time. I'm terrible at meditating. I mean, I am. I do it, but I do it in very small increments just because of the fact that I can't sit there for, like you said, an hour and, I'll fall asleep, you know, and it just.
Yeah, it's so true. Same. You can meditate in different ways. You don't have to sit, in like a pose like this and meditate. I meditate in the bath. Like I'll just take a time to soak in the bath. That's my meditation time too. Nature, getting out in nature is huge. Sitting by water, sitting by a tree, just sitting in nature. That's a form of meditation as well. So try many different things till you find what works first, and start small. You can start literally a few minutes at a time with meditation. Because if you do have a hard time finding that mind, like I do too, it takes practice and it's a process. But the more you practice, the better you'll become at it.
Right. Yeah, and that's so true. I mean, when I meditate, usually if I have to get recharged, like I know for a fact that it's been a spiritual, not issue, but some things have happened this weekend, and where I had to use my gifts, and I'm drained, and I could not I just felt overly tired and overly, and that was spirit basically saying, hey, you gotta recharge yourself.
Yes.
That's happened twice now. And so what I find is I go down by the lake here, I take my shoes off, I put my feet in the grass, and I sit right in front of the lake, and that just recharges me. It's something about the water and the lake itself. It's just, and this lake particular, just because I was born here, and I love this lake. You know what I mean? So I can sit there, and it's just a weird feeling. You know what I mean? I've always been attracted to this lake, so I kind of figured out that that's what I got to do. So
I just have chills when you're talking about that. Yeah.
When you get to that point where you just feel like you're totally exhausted, and that can come with somebody like what do they call those, emotional vampires?
Yeah, energy vampires.
Energy vampires, and my wife kind of ran into one the other day, and I was just like, "How you got to watch out for those," and
You really do. And we're so
yeah,
prone to attract
right,
those. We're like
right,
magnets,
right,
Yeah. But
and
you're so true that healing of the water, nature is healing in itself. Water is very healing, especially for empaths and gifted souls. Um, One thing I stress about is protection and grounding and clearing that energy, because people don't realize when we do this work, it takes a toll on us, and we get burned out really easy. And so why spiritual self-care, taking care of yourself first, matters. And if you need to take a break, you disconnect. I've been on this disconnect for like the last month, you know me.
Yeah.
But I too was feeling very exhausted, and just, so I had to take a step back and take care of myself first. And it's so important too, because we come back so much stronger and so much, more recharged, and it's just beautiful.
right. Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
and
And yeah, before also, what do we say? The grass. Yes, that's a really simple exercise that anyone can do. If anyone, it feels like, I just need like a little grounding moment. If you have grass, go outside, take your shoes off, and literally stand in the grass with your bare feet.
Sure.
That is healing, and it's grounding in so many ways. So that really does help. These things do work.
Yeah. Don't you remember? Yeah, I was going to say that. Don't you remember, when you were a kid and you would just run around the yard with no shoes on
along the river.
Yeah,
So
and you had all that
down the
energy,
river.
and it was just like, and then when we get older, we forget that, and then all of a sudden, it's just like,
and now it's coming back. Now that memory's coming back, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, that's just when like I said, I just did it not too long ago and stuck my feet in the grass, and it was just amazing.
So when you let your bubble down to talk to these spirits, how do you prevent them from just flooding? I mean,
that's a good question.
I always put protection.
I don't have the experience because I'm not psychic like you guys. I don't have that mediumship.
Right.
But my picture is you got this little blue force field, kind of like you see in the space movies, and then when the bubble pops, you just get crushed.
It's like having a bunch of people. Like when I did my gallery reading here on Friday the 13th. I guarded myself and I shielded myself, but I still sensed, because of the fact that I had at least 20 people in the room, it was like trying to get 20 people through one doorway. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was kind of overbearing at first, but I had to basically just, slow down and not try to rush anything, let things come to you naturally. But yeah, shielding is the biggest thing.
Yeah. So what's the technique to prevent the flood or getting beat up or whatever other bad things can happen?
Go ahead.
You don't have to be doing this work to be affected by energy. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. Yeah. As soon as we leave our homes, we're like bombarded by energy. Doesn't matter.
The laws of thermodynamics tell us that.
So I always, before I leave my house, I set like protections in place. So the idea is here. Have you ever heard of raise your vibration, raise your energy? You want to keep, and that's more like positive energy. Just I start off my day with a positive mindset, really grounding. I ground myself first. I clear myself, and I put protection prayers in place. And that really, for me, starts off my day. I feel like, I have this, this armor that I'm walking around with. And it really does help, because I tell you, when I just leave my house without thinking about this, and it doesn't have to be anything long. Literally, I take like a minute or less to do these things. I have like a quick prayer that I do. Archangel Michael, you could use a prayer of his, something that's really quick and easy. This doesn't have to be anything long. But if you put those protections in place before you leave your house, and then when you come home, you also want to clear that energy as well, because we don't realize how, there's so many different kind of energies that we come across in a day, and we don't realize how those energies really do affect us. So it's so important to start your day with, having those protections in place. And then when you come home, clear that energy and take a moment to be able just to ground yourself.
Yeah. And so is there some kind of protocol? I mean, because if you got your bubble up, and the
Mhm.
spirit stops by and, you know, do they knock on the bubble? I mean, how is there some kind of, you can only how do you let just one through without popping the bubble and just getting, you know, I mean, is there some kind of protocol? Is there some kind of standardized way of how you would control the flow?
Like I will say, there is no on and off switch completely. You can't turn this completely off. We can
Okay.
put, you know, procedures in place to help eliminate that. But I still, even when I go out and about, but I will say when I leave my house and let's say I'm at a grocery store, I
Right.
walk by someone, all of a sudden I'm picking up on someone, maybe that person had someone recently just passed in their life.
Okay.
For me, when I go out, because I put those protection in places, I tend to attract higher, more loving energy. So
Okay.
most part, I don't attract lower vibrational energies because I
Yeah.
have those guards in place. I'm not just going out just, you know, wide open. I do have those in places, but I can't completely turn it on, but I can learn how to control it.
Okay.
So yes, they can, you know, still communicate with you. You're just going to attract better and a more
Oh, I
higher
understand. Okay.
vibrational spirit.
So it's a
Does that make
society
sense?
scale. So it's like a levels in society for the spirit side.
Yes,
Yeah.
If you
very
got
much.
your bubble up, you get the better people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is true. You know, I've
Okay.
tested this, everything I've done in my life
Sure.
with these abilities to try and test this. And I tell you, when I, you know, have the lower vibrational stuff going on, you're going to attract what, you know, what
Right,
you
right,
feel is what you're going to attract. So
Yeah.
raise your energy.
Yeah. These
right.
probably seem like crazy questions, but to
No, I
somebody
love
that
it.
really doesn't have any, I mean,
Mhm.
it's like I have no other way to probe it other than to probe your minds, you know,
Yeah.
Right.
for answers.
Oh,
And
you can ask her away. You know,
yeah,
ask
I love
away.
questions because I love the questions. So ask away. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause it is. It's so much to learn. And for like myself, these things came so natural. I didn't know any other way. But with it coming natural, I had to learn that these were gifts and abilities that I was having. Not everyone, again, everyone's born. I really believe that everyone's born with this, but not everyone has the abilities, you know, like how I have them. So, and we are
Right.
all at different levels with learning this stuff.
And everybody's on their own path. And you
Yes,
got to remember that. You know, everybody has their own individual path that
yes,
whether it can, you know, it can be a medium or be an electrician or somebody, you know what I mean, that doesn't use gifts. I mean, everybody's path is different on this plane as well as the other plane. So I've always viewed that as that's just the way it is, you know. And
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah. And I use my gifts to help serve others. You know,
mhm.
I've been able to heal myself throughout my own journey. And, you know, I really use my gifts to, you know, not only help inspire others, but to, I mean, there's just so much to this. It's just amazing. I mean, there really is.
Mhm.
It really
Right,
is.
right.
Mhm.
Um, I I had asked my last guest this from yesterday, and I'm still kind of probing this question with other mediums. What is your opinion, and how do you feel about past life regression therapy?
Hmm. I'm open to it.
Okay,
But again, everyone's journey is different.
right.
I would really look into, for one for me when I'm working with someone or looking into someone like that, you need, for me, I need to have that trust factor in place, feel
Mm-hmm,
comfortable with that person.
mm-hmm,
Um, you know, learn a little bit more about them and what they're offering and how they work. For me, you know, being who I am, I tend to gravitate more towards light people and that people that work in the light versus the dark.
mm-hmm.
So again, past life regression can be amazing for a lot of us, but there's some people that may be more new to this and it might, you know, come off a little like, oh my gosh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
scary. But it's not past life regression. I think it could be a really good thing, you know, depending on
Right,
the person. Yeah, it was.
right,
Yeah, was for me. I actually went through something like that. So.
right. And I've been kind of have this inkling that I need to do that, and
Ooh,
it's been kind of going on now for months, and it's something that I want to look into. So I'm trying to probe other people's brains and
yeah.
like people who are mediums and who aren't mediums and what they think about it. You know, do you know anything about that Shane?
I would definitely look in. I would when you're, I would definitely look more into that for yourself.
Right.
Jay, I mentioned this to you earlier. When you start opening yourself up to learning your gifts and abilities, you will learn that you have so much more abilities than you even know yet.
Yeah.
So as you go and things start opening up more for you, you will learn that you have other gifts and abilities that you haven't even learned yet. And so
Right.
all these things are opening. Once again, follow those breadcrumbs. That inner guide
Right.
is
Yep.
like leading you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I would definitely look into more. I personally don't teach that. I'm just not in a place to teach that, but I would
Right.
find someone that does. Yeah.
Okay.
And I do know some really great people if you need reference.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Shane, have you ever heard of that? What past life regression therapy or anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard of it only because I've read a lot of science papers from the parapsychology groups. And
Right.
they have all different kinds of theories in academia.
So many.
It's
yeah.
So it's so many I haven't even sorted them all out yet.
Right. So. Shane, how would you feel? What you think the link is between, like, we were talking about, near-death experiences and stuff like that, and the science behind it? Because I know that some of the books that I've read have really tied in with that whole scientific aspect of near-death experience.
So the prevailing theory in the academic world is that because everything, all matter, all parts are quantum from quantum physics. I mean, things aren't as they seem, as famous scientists always talk about. So and they always talk about what they call wave functions. Wave functions are how quantum information gets passed through the universe. It's that whole thing of, okay, you have a particle and you have another small particle and you put them together and they become like married together, or entangled is the correct term. And then you can move those particles far away and you can turn one particle and another and will move no matter how far away, faster than the speed of light. Okay. These are things that happen. We prove them all the time with science. The idea was that when someone passes, their wave function collapses and it sends ripples out through space-time, and all the other mediums and other people that are sensitive enough to detect it, their brains sense that this wave function collapsed and start connecting with that. And then there's residuals of the wave functions left. And you can read about this all over the place, science papers, if you don't mind reading some dry academia.
I don't know why I asked you that question, but I just felt like I had to ask you that question.
Well,
I did not know that.
From a scientist's perspective, it's a collapse of the quantum wave function when your brain ceases to function physically.
I did not know that. That is awesome.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And see, for me, I've always been very sensitive to energy.
Yeah, and which quantum is all energy.
Yeah, and when someone's in my presence, and it could be even through online, but when someone is in my presence, I instantly connect to their energy or whoever is connected with them.
Sure.
And it's such, it feels like do you know what I say mean when I say intuitive hit? Like, it just feels like an intuitive hit first.
Well, if you're tuning to the wave functions and one of them, somebody's is really disturbed, as you get near them, well, you don't even have to be near them because they don't follow regular space-time. Like say, literally, you could take those two particles, marry them together, send one to the planet Jupiter and keep one on Earth. If you do something to the one on Earth, the one on Jupiter will instantaneously do the opposite thing, with not taking into account the speed of light. So this is what Einstein called the spooky action at a distance. Matter of fact, Einstein was so upset by this that his equations showed it, that he wanted to try to write it out of his equations, but it just didn't work. He
couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it. So he had to just live with it. To his grave, he took the fact that this is weird and it shouldn't happen, and it does. So that, from my perspective as a science person, that's how I view it. It's probably too simplistic and not intuitive enough for mediums. I mean, if you're just wallowing in this stuff all day long, I picture it like a quagmire of just random fluctuations of noise. But I don't know. I don't have the ability really, so I just go about my business and you know,
it's an interesting existence. I wish I could articulate it in the way that I experience it.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
it's just it's so it's so hard to really articulate all like how you know how you fully experience or how I fully experience and all that. Like I can give you clips, but to really give you the full comparison, there's nothing that can I can say that can really put into words.
Unless
So
you
there's like a-
experienced it.
Is there like I'm thinking of the word like a spirit news source, a spirit library, a spirit place to figure out answers to things? Because here's a strange one. I'll give you like a 3-minute backstory. Quite some time ago, I did an investigation at a famous school. All right. And so I went there, I did the investigation, didn't really find anything, had lots of instruments all over the place. No big deal. But what happened is about 2 weeks later, I went and did a private residence. Well, while we're setting up and talking to these people, they asked me what was the last investigation you went to. And I started talking about it. And then later, when I went back to look at the data on my sensor boards, during the exact like minute and 18 seconds that I talked about that other investigation, I was getting radiation peaks, magnetic field dips. I mean, we're getting things. So that was weird. And I thought, okay, it just happened to be coincidence. Data lined up with while I was talking about this. So then forward a few more weeks, I was at a cemetery with a friend. We were doing an investigation. And again, the friend's like, hey, what have you been doing for investigations? Blah, blah, blah. So I started talking about that school investigation again. Well, during the 2 minutes and like 32 seconds that I talked about that, again, these same changes in, beta radiation and magnetic field were happening on the sensor board. And so it's like, okay, that's twice now. So it's like, okay, how do you find out, okay, did something attach and follow? Is the location cognizant that I'm talking about it somewhere else?
Yes.
Is there some spirit that's just disturbed and just thinks it's fun to poke my board whenever I talk about them? I mean, at the actual investigation, really didn't find crap.
That would be a good question for you, Shanna.
So where do you get the director?
You could whatever you could probably pick up whatever Shane had gone through with that.
First off, I pick up a little boy that I picked up a little boy.
Thousands.
Yes, but there's one in particular that had liking to you.
Okay.
That is still kind of hanging around. But you're right. It's when you go to a location that's haunted, like the school, for example. When we go, that energy. When we leave those places, sometimes I do. Energies will come back with you. Anytime we do an investigation, there will be energies. Why? Again, we put protections in place because you don't want lower, negative energies coming back with you. But in this case, what I sense is a little boy. I sense he's around maybe between the age of like 10 to 12.
Makes sense.
Anyways, he had a really liking to you. That energy you're still feeling. So there's that. And there's nothing bad. He was just, curious about you. But again, too, with you being in that location and then you coming back out, when you speak of it, those spirits, they have met you. They now know who you are. You're still connected in that energy.
It's a 7-hour drive from Iowa to where I live in Michigan. So that's 7 hours away.
And sometimes that energy can stay with us. It can stay with us a couple of days after. It could stay with you a week. It really all depends. And again, anytime you go into a haunted location, it is so important to clear your energy before you leave, so you don't bring something home if you.
It's been tempted to test it again. Be like, all right, set up the board, find a spot that's not haunted, and then start talking about that place, and then go back in the data and look and see if the time I was talking about it coincided with changes in the environment.
I would look. I would definitely look. And one thing you could say now is if anything did come, back with you, I would really look at this little boy. But I say, you got to go back. I will come back and visit you, but you got to go back to your home. That's your home. I will come back and visit, and literally that energy will.
I'll give you a ride back to the school.
Remember what I saying earlier in my story, I went back to a location to drop off the attachment that came home with me.
Right.
And after I did that, you know, and sometimes we're not able to go back to that location. And if you're not, then speak it. You know, you can send them back on our own. We have the power to be able to connect, and we
it
have
would be a fun place to investigate again. So yeah, I mean, it's not
Definitely.
impossible. It's a long drive.
Now, do you have any activity in your house at all?
Nope, not that I've seen.
that
In
he
fact,
knows
the
of.
funny thing is I use my house to test my sensor board because I was, you know, and it'll go for days with just flatline readings of everything. I mean, just nominal. So whatever, if there is something there, it doesn't seem to think that's an
See, because when I only asked Shauna to do that because of the fact that I picked up on the same exact thing.
Did you?
Yes. And that's why I'm like, I knew she was going to say that. So that had that validation of that. And that's why I chose you. I mean, I talked to you. I mean, I could say it, but I wanted somebody that you don't normally talk to.
Yeah.
And that I wanted that validation. So I got it. So.
Did anyone, let me just stop. Did anyone feel goosebumps or chills there?
A little bit.
Yeah. Yep. That's spirit's way of validating. Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that my personal opinion is the fact that this thing travels. You know what I mean? I think this thing travels back and forth.
Well, and again, I guess the other thing I'd pictured is, well, I mean, if it is all quantum wave functions, all it has to do is ripple its wave there in Iowa, and it would ripple the wave here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
we go into those environments, and that energy, really has a liking towards us. We always feel. I'll give an example. I was able to investigate Waverly in 2013, Waverly Sanitarium.
I'd like to go there.
Dream bucket list. I was still in that point of, okay, is this really happening? There's really something here, or, I still was on this seeking journey. And let me tell you, I got all the answers that I needed. But I will say it's been through, that was 2013. We're now, 2021. And I still feel the energy, and I still feel a couple in particular spirits that I connected with at Waverly. I still feel them. Like talking about them right now, I don't know if you can see, but I have goosebumps.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
You, Jay, going into certain haunted locations, do you feel like you still feel like sense that energy, or you still feel connected to that place?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they said, well, I mean, many scientists, energy can't be created or destroyed. It's got to go somewhere and do something. I mean, entropy increases, so.
Yeah, energy is always moving. It's always shift shaping. I mean, it's
Yeah, when I first came into this office, when I was being shown that I could do my podcast here months ago, my eyes were watering. I had full body chills. I mean, it was just like the energy in here was like electrified. And sometimes I still get that. Now, I've had other shows where I've got my cat toys and other things in here that make them go off. I mean, there was when I did the interview with Brandon and Brody and Jason. I mean, we were trying to do that, trying to communicate through distance. And that was really cool because we were getting readings on both sides from this room and from where they were in Maryland.
Oh, cool.
And so that was really cool, and that's, my cat toy was going off, constantly yes and no answers. So that was pretty cool. So sometimes do I get chills coming in here? Yeah, sometimes. Or sometimes I get it before I leave, or I always get welcomed at the door, because I always say, thank you for, letting me come here to do the show. And I'm very polite and this and that.
Not for wrecking your equipment.
Yeah. And they don't mess with any of my equipment anymore.
Oh, I was going to ask you that. I was like, do they ever mess with your equipment?
They did in the very beginning.
Yeah.
They cost us our first show.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They will do that.
Yeah. But now it's fine. I mean, they don't mess with anything. But yeah, it's just after I did the gallery reading here and everything, what did happen though, when it never happened here before, was when I first came in the building on that Friday the 13th, the lights flickered in the whole building. Okay.
Wow.
Now that doesn't happen. And so they were kind of wondering, what was going on. Well, the two bartenders were in the kitchen, and they said, "Oh, Jay must be here." That's exactly what they said. They said, "Jay's here," So when I was going through the reading and I was going through, different things in the ballroom, lights would flicker at certain answers, certain questions, certain this and certain that. And it was just like, yeah, I said, okay, I'm going to go up there and talk in about 2 minutes. And then the lights would flicker on it. It was like 8:28 and lights flickered. I'm like, okay, I'm going. So yeah, that was they were kind of validating some of that as well. I mean, the spirits here are awesome. I mean, they're just, I haven't ran into anything really negative here. Like I said, this is like a way station. This is
pranksters.
They come through. They come through here, and they hang out. They do this, that, and we just had. I was visiting the other day with the owner, Monica, and she wanted me to come down into the speakeasy bar in the basement and to talk with one of the barmaids there, and she was playing 20s, 30s music, like speakeasy music, and I instantly saw a lady dressed in period clothing sitting at the end of the bar, bebopping her head to the music. And I was just like...
Actually, we had a music experience just at our last investigation.
Did you?
Yeah. So basically, we were at the Inspiration House in Oberlin, Ohio, and we actually had a registered medium that was registered through the university that came out to do studies with us, because we were doing blind studies to see if they could influence objects, et cetera, et cetera. Well, she said that there was a spirit of a young lady there, and that she liked music, and that she wanted us to play music for her. So way later in the evening, after we'd done all the rest, we just set the board up, let it sit there, and then we started up music, and they definitely made a statistical change in the globe's energy use, etc. And it literally went for the time exactly when the music was playing. So
okay,
she evidently liked the music.
Right.
So
yeah, and that whole, with music,
I couldn't communicate with her directly. All I could see was numbers on a board.
Right.
The medium was kind of giving me a play-by-play, like, she's over here, she's over there, she's playing with the globe, things like that. And I haven't finished the statistics on it yet, but it looks like when they said she was touching the thing, it was touching. So I don't know.
If we just pay attention, they speak. Spirits, I mean, we're never alone. Let's put it that way.
Right.
The spirit speaks often, all the time. They never shut up. So all you do is sit back and listen and pay attention, really, know?
Yeah, I just wish I had the soul phone thing so I could just, hook up like you guys do.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yes, be careful what you wish for, Shane.
Then I would know where to put my sensors. It'd be like, okay, they're sitting on the couch over there. Here's
right. But you have to understand too, because of the fact that being the way like me and Shanna are, we'll get energy ripples from everywhere.
Well, that's what I said. To me, it feels like it would be a quagmire, even though I don't experience it.
Right, but I mean, on some of those,
than there are alive on this planet.
But some of those waves you don't want to experience.
No.
Yeah, it's.
I used to, when I was younger. Still, I don't love crowds.
Right, I don't either.
Love crowds, right? And the only way I can describe it is I actually found a picture of an artist. It was a young girl that drew a picture of herself, like with her hands over her head, and all of these people behind her just talking to her. And I remember that picture, or that art piece, has always stood out to me. But that's how I've always felt throughout my life. When I am, let's say, when I'm in a crowd, I'm at the State Fair, Minnesota State Fair. When I am there are so many people, right?
Sure.
All the physical people that are there. What people don't understand is I'm not only dealing with the physical people there, I am also dealing with their family members and any energy that they bring in with them. So it's never quiet in my head.
Nope.
There's always, I walk, like when I go out anywhere, I'm like in tunnel vision.
Yeah, you have to be.
I have to be, because if I don't, I would be like Teresa from the Long Island Medium.
That would drive me nuts.
People, right?
Oh my God, that would drive me nuts. I've had
They're like,
that happen. Yeah, I've had that happen like in Walmart where I've had, I've been kind of like not accosted, but I mean it's kind of like approached basically, and I have to just be like those things like horses wear. You have to those are blinders so they can't see.
yes.
Because the fact it's like I don't see you, what I mean? And so it's like that some of them like I know you could see me,
Yes.
and so they get irritated, and then it's just like, yeah, I know that is part of it, and you have to just be respectful and take it for what it is, and if you can help, you can help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and sometimes when we're given certain information, we're not. It doesn't always mean that you need to share that with the other person. Sometimes you don't know why we're meant to see or experience some of the things that we do. I had to learn that there are things that we can, that you can talk to someone about, and then there's things that you intuitively I just had an interesting experience. Recently, my mother had just had a couple strokes, and so I've been at the hospital a lot lately, and it's just talk about draining. Anyone, like myself, being at a hospital in that environment, it's just completely crazy, right? So I was sitting there, I'm completely like shut down in my mind. I'm just, sitting there, and there was a gentleman in front of me in a wheelchair, and instantly my guide, my spirit guide, is telling me, information about this man. And the information that I was receiving is, he with diabetes. I had noticed that he was missing a leg. So my guides were telling me, because due to diabetes, he had missed his leg or lost his leg. I also picked up that he was a military man. And there's all these details that were in there. And I just got chills just talking about it. And as I'm sitting there, I just look at myself and I said, to my spirit guide, I was like, okay, thank you for the information. Just.
It's like, what do I do with that? Okay.
Yeah. So I did a grounding. I just, did a grounding grounding for me at that moment was my cup of coffee in my hand and taking a sip. So the doctor came, we go in, the guy went in before us, and then it was my mother's turn, and this was physical therapy, so we're all in. Happened that this guy that was in front of us was in the, next door to us, and he ended up sharing with his physician everything that I was just told by the spirit guide. I'm just sitting there like, wow, it's just like one of those moments where it's just, wow.
Right.
So where do you sign up for one of these spirit guides?
Everybody has them.
Yeah, we're all born with them. We really are.
We're all born with them.
But, okay, so if we're all born with them, are they just other souls that just happen to like you, or are they assigned an angel?
We are assigned. We all have a divine team, which is our, spirit guides, our angels, our ancestors. We all, some of us can have a few of them. Some of us can have a whole team. It really, depends. But I truly believe when we're born into this world, we come into this world with a certain spirit guide. Now, I believe that there's spirit guides that will stay with you throughout your life. And then there's spirit guides that will come in your life and go at certain times.
Right.
But we all have a team. You definitely have a team. I actually pick up 5 for you, Shane.
Yeah, he's got, that's what I was getting. He's got quite a few. But that's the whole thing that he's not.
But how do you connect? I mean, you can't just pick up your phone and, send him a text message or dial him up.
It's actually easier than that.
It's so simple. It really is. Our human minds want to make this so much more complicated than it really is. It really is simple. And I know when I say that, you're like, oh, right.
If you're born with it, I would assume it is. But if you're not,
this has taken me a long time to actually understand, what and how I would, how these things work, so that really took, came with time. But
you can get that through meditating too.
Yeah, I was just going to say a good place to start for that is go to YouTube, find a video where you can, like a video where you can tune into your spirit guides. I just find that is a great place to start. You're able to, that's a great place to start. Start there and listen to, type in, that specific thing. Like you want to connect to your spirit guides. What I do is I'll go to a video, I'll look through a few, whatever the one that you're most drawn to, choose that one. And there are messages. And once you start opening, like working on our third eye, that's another thing. You want to start opening up your gifts and abilities. Focus on your third eye. You want to connect to your spirit guides. Start asking. All we need to do is ask. All we need to do is give them permission. One thing I learned through my near-death experiences and what I came back with is that the other side, our loved ones, our ancestors, angels, they are here to help us and they want to help us. But we have to be able to give them permission and call upon them whenever you need.
All right, makes sense.
But start with a video. That would be a great place for you to start, just because you have your mind and being able to shut it off, right?
Right. There we go.
I think we did more for Shane tonight. This is awesome.
Yeah, you guys are all right.
It's so interesting because I kept saying, Jan and I did not have much of a conversation about this. I was like, we're just going to let the conversation flow. But I kept picking up on a guy, and I don't think that you mentioned it to me about anything about a guy coming on. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
He's
stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Notebook Book. I love the questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just, he's the kind of the yin and yang, I mean, we both are just kind of, he's the science and
And I do pick up, Shane, for you that you are very intuitive. You do have psychic abilities, but your science brain is blocking those two, because our science brain can block that.
If anything, I would call it the BS filter.
Yep.
BS.
Yep.
Aside from that, I don't know if I got much.
And the skeptic and everything else. That was my process as well, too. Even though I was born this way, I still am a skeptic first. And I'm very much a common sense, analytical type of person. So it took me a long time to get out of my own way and to realize, oh, wow, there really is something happening.
Right. Yeah. I had to do the same.
And to be able to work, I was able to investigate with Chip Coffey. I remember. Yeah,
he's awesome.
Oh, so awesome. I just love him. And to be able to see how he works, I'm just like, oh my God. He's one that came up to me and said, honey, you got gifts. And I'm like, well, thank you.
If you ever want to see a strange investigation, you should go with one of my investigations. They are totally different.
Awesome. Just awesome. And like Steve Gonzalez from the original Ghost Hunters, being able to investigate with the pros and for me to be able to experience that, that was really a big turning point in my journey, because I realized how they work is very similar to how I work. Now, no psychic medium are the same or work the same. We all work and, work differently. But you find out how you work and, what works for you.
Right. I totally agree. Well, I think that's about it. Actually, it's a little after 7.
We blew away that hour quick.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I want to say thank you, Shanna Maria, for coming on. This has been very
most excellent.
Yes, excellent indeed.
And thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking with you guys.
Yeah. You said that you got a new phone. Do you have anywhere else we can find you? Besides, now, are you still going to have Facebook or?
No, I'm breaking everything down. Spirit's like leading me to, you need to break everything and start all over. Okay. So right now you can connect with me through email or Instagram for now, which is Shanna Maria Medium.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. But I will have some stuff coming up soon. I'm just in the transition of redoing everything right now. So it's a little overwhelming, but exciting.
Right. Well, it's done. Sometimes you got to do that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Shane.
Yep.
Thank you, Shanna Maria. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.